Today we're going to be learning how to convert in the metric system of measurement. Let's get started. Before we can really talk about how to convert in the metric system, we have to review what we know about powers of 10. Do you remember Mr. Dull? Mr. Dull reminds us that when we multiply by powers of 10, the decimal point will move to the right, and when we divide by a power of 10, the decimal point moves to the left. So when we have the example of 5 7/10 times 10 to the power of 2, my exponent is 2, and I'm multiplying, so my decimal point moves 2 times to the right, giving me 570. And when I'm dividing, if I have 782 1/10 divided by 10 to the power of 1, my exponent is 1, and I'm dividing, so my decimal point moves to the left one time, giving me 78 21/100. If you can understand powers of 10, the metric system is going to be so easy. Now I know what you're all thinking. What are we measuring? Whenever you're doing measurement, there are 3 different kinds of measurement you might have. You might have length, where you're measuring how long something is. You might have capacity, where you're measuring how much can fit inside of an object. Or you might be measuring mass, or the weight of an object. In the metric system, when you measure length, you're using a unit called the meter. When you're doing capacity, you use liter. And when you do mass, you're using the gram. Anytime you see meter, liter, or gram, you know that you're going to be using the metric system. Today, what we're going to be working on is converting within the metric system. And to do that, we're going to use what you see here, which is the metric system staircase. You see all of these different prefixes, which can be added to our base unit. We have kilo, hecto, deca, the base unit, deci, centi, and milli. Each one of these you can add to your base unit. So for example, you may see a kilogram, you may see a centimeter, or you might see a milliliter. All of these are examples that we see in the metric system. The kilo is the biggest one that we worry about in 5th grade, and the milli is the smallest that we worry about in 5th grade. Now, the order matters. You need to remember the order of each one of these prefixes. It looks pretty tricky, so I've come up with a saying to help you. If you can remember, King Henry doesn't usually drink chocolate milk, these conversions are going to be very easy for you. So when you're converting, you're going to be moving either up the staircase or down the staircase. When you move down the staircase, in order to figure out what your conversion is, you have to count your jumps and then multiply by that power of 10. And when you move up the staircase, you have to count your jumps and then divide by that power of 10. It's just like the powers of 10 that we used earlier this school year. Now, that might be a little confusing. Let me show you an example of how it works. In this example, I'm starting with 142 grams, and I want to figure out how much that is in kilograms. So first what I have to do is I have to figure out which direction I'm moving on my staircase. And I see that I'm moving up because I'm moving from my base unit to kilo. And when I move up the staircase, you have to count your jumps and then divide by that power of 10. So what that means is I'm going to move 3 times up my staircase, and I'm going to divide by 10 to the power of 3, because that's how many times I jumped on my staircase. And when we do 142 divided by 10 to the power of 3, I end up with 142 thousandths of a kilogram. That last example was using the base unit of grams, which means we were measuring mass. Now let's do an example with liters, which is measuring capacity. So I'm starting with 1 23/100ths of a liter, and I want to figure out how many milliliters that is. So I look, and when I move from my base unit to milli, I'm moving down the staircase. And we've learned that when you move down the staircase, you have to count your jumps and then multiply by that power of 10. So when I count my jumps, I see that I have 1, 2, 3 jumps. So I need to multiply by 10 to the power of 3. And when I do that, I find that 1 23/100 of a liter equals 1,230 milliliters. Let's do one more example. This time we're going to use the base unit of the meter, which means that we're measuring length. I'm starting with the centimeter, and I'm moving to meter, which is my base unit. So what that means is I am moving up the staircase, and as we've learned, when you move up the staircase, first you count your jumps, and then you divide by that power of 10. So I have 2 jumps when I'm going from centi to my base unit, which means that I need to do 13 2/10 divided by 10 to the power of 2, which gives me 132 thousandths of a meter. As you can see, converting in the metric system is just like using powers of 10. If you can do powers of 10, the metric system is going to be very easy for you. It doesn't matter what your base unit is, if it is a meter, liter, or gram, you follow the same rules either way. You do need to remember the order, so I strongly encourage you to write down our fun little saying, King Henry doesn't usually drink chocolate milk. This will absolutely help you as you're doing your metric conversions. Good luck with your work!